So it's over. After a grueling 21-hour marathon of talks, the high-stakes negotiations between the US and Iran, they've just completely collapsed. You gotta ask, what was even on the table, and why did it all fall apart so spectacularly? All right, let's get into it and break down exactly what happened here.
Yeah, that's Vice President J.D. Vance speaking just moments after walking out of those talks in Islamabad, Pakistan. Can you imagine? For almost a full day, these diplomats were locked in a room trying to hash out a peace deal. And that statement, it tells you everything you need to know about the American position. They're feeling confident, even though the talks failed.
So, yeah, 41 hours and nothing. No deal. Negotiators from both sides are packing their bags and leaving Pakistan with empty hands. And now, everyone's wondering, what's next? After all that time, how did it all go so wrong?
Well, it really came down to a few major deal breakers. The talks basically hit a brick wall. There were these specific points where, neither side was willing to give an inch. These were the non-negotiables that just completely torpedoed any chance of an agreement.
So the U.S. administration came to the table with what they were calling their red lines. We're talking 3 core issues, the absolute foundation of their demands. And since Iran wouldn't accept them, well, that was that. The talks fell apart.
Okay, so here are the 3 big sticking points. First, the U.S. wanted an ironclad affirmative commitment from Iran on its nuclear program. Second, there's the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, which for Iran is pretty much the last real bargaining chip they have. And third, the U.S. flat out refused to unfreeze billions in Iranian assets, basically because they were worried that money would go right back into rebuilding their military. On these 3 things, there was just no wiggle room, no middle ground at all.
And let's be really clear about that first point, the nuclear one. This wasn't just about some vague promise. No way. Sources are saying the U.S. demanded that Iran physically hand over its entire stockpile of highly enriched uranium. We're talking about material that even Iran admits is enough to build 11 nuclear bombs. That just shows you the level of deep, deep mistrust at that negotiating table. Wow.
So that brings up a huge question, right? How can the U.S. make these massive demands and then just walk away, totally confident, when Iran says no? The answer isn't in that negotiating room. No, the answer lies in what happened on the battlefield just before these talks even started.
See, the entire backdrop for these talks is a military campaign called Operation Epic Fury. And believe me, this operation completely changed the balance of power. It's the reason the U.S. administration thinks it's holding all the cards.
So what exactly was Operation Epic Fury? Well, it was a fast and brutal 40-day military campaign, and its goal was to just decimate huge parts of Iran's military. We're talking about their navy, their powerful Revolutionary Guard Corps, and even the factories making their missiles and drones, just taken apart.
And the scale of the damage? It's just staggering. To put one number on it, Iran lost 158 naval vessels. 158. That's not a setback. That is the virtual annihilation of an entire navy.
And, this quote from President Trump, it says it all, doesn't it? There's no sugarcoating it. The U.S. administration clearly sees Iran's military as a defeated force. And that belief, it's shaping every single thing they do diplomatically. So, with its regular military in ruins, Iran's been forced to fall back on its one last piece of leverage, its one remaining threat, the ability to cause chaos in the Strait of Hormuz, which is, a critical choke point for the world's oil supply. And this really lays out the 2 completely different ways of looking at it. For Iran, putting mines in the strait is their last desperate move, their final way to have some say in this. But for the rest of the world, a single cheap mine can bring billions of dollars in global trade to a screeching halt. And that's a threat nobody is willing to accept.
But here's the thing. Even that final bit of leverage is being taken away now. In a move that sends a huge message, U.S. Central Command has confirmed it. American destroyers are now in the straits, and they've started actively clearing mines. They're directly challenging Iran's last strategic card.
And this quote from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, it just perfectly captures the grim reality with a shot of very dark humor. When he says, we'll take the upper half, what he's really saying is that most of the Iranian Navy is already, as President Trump put it, at the bottom of the sea.
So, okay, the negotiations have failed. Iran's military leverage is basically disappearing. The ball is now firmly in President Trump's court. What happens next? Does he restart the war, or is there some other play here?
And the situation in the region isn't doing Iran any favors either. You've got allies like Israel feeling pretty confident.
Just listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu. They wanted to strangle us, and we are strangling them. And on top of that, Iran has managed to tick off its neighbors by targeting Gulf states like the UAE and Kuwait, countries that weren't even directly in the fight. They've really isolated themselves.
And this pretty much sums up the administration's public message. It's one of absolute certainty. From their point of view, the outcome is already locked in.
Which leaves us right here with this one deeply unsettling question. The talks are dead. The red lines weren't crossed. Iran is backed into a corner, and the U.S. is projecting total victory. So with diplomacy officially off the table, is a return to all-out war now inevitable? That is the question the entire world is asking right now.